Hey everyone, welcome to Short Takes. We're produced by the Alabama Take. I am your host, Blaine Duncan, and editor-in-chief of the website. Our show here is a brief interview show, talk show, with some of our favorites and most revered people. Today, I've got with me one of the greats, my favorite bass player, for sure. It's Mr. Matt Patton's with us today. Hey Matt, how you doing?
Hi. How's it going, Blaine?
It's going great, dude. Just for anyone who's crazy enough not to know, you're the front man of Model Citizen. I'm going to start there. Look at that.
Okay.
Legendary Birmingham and Tuscaloosa bass band. And just by chance, I'm going to fire off away right off the bat. What's the odds of us getting vinyl from Model Citizen?
I think you might not get exactly what you expect first, but I think you would get. We're talking about doing some stuff. I don't want to get people's hopes up for things that may or may not happen, but I think you'll see something. There's some talks about doing something, and there's always been like a sort of reserve of material too, So it's just
really?
like figuring out, if it's something live in studio, something entirely
cool.
brand new studio, or it's like we're talking about all that stuff. The pandemic's given us lots of time to reconnect.
Good.
And over the pandemic, I finished. I think the biggest reason like Model Citizen stopped doing stuff was because we just didn't have new material.
Mm-hmm.
And it's never as fun to just keep going with the same batch of songs, and it's just like I kind of got bad writer's block lyrically.
Mm-hmm.
Musically was never a problem. I could always sit down and have, music that was interesting to me,
Mm-hmm.
but putting the lyrics with it got harder for whatever reason. But over the pandemic, I sat and finished lyrics for a couple of songs that I've had music for 15 years on, so it's just like how that'll show up exactly, I don't know,
Yeah. That's really promising, though.
Several things that we'd like to do,
Yeah, I gotcha. Well, we won't hold you to anything specific, but that is really good news, man. That's good. Good to hear. A lot of people, I think, would appreciate that and kind of miss it a little. I, for one, for sure.
I miss it too.
Yeah? All right. Yeah, that gets you a chance to get back on guitar instead of just the bass.
Right.
And a lot of people probably know, a lot of people watching this show in particular, I imagine, know you from the Dexateens as well, so I don't want to forget to mention them. Always one of my favorite bands. And of course, anyone else who's joining us would recognize you from the Drive-By Truckers of late. How many years has it been that you've been with the Truckers now? Has it been 8?
It's been over 9.
Okay.
I guess February of next year would be 10.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm a couple years off. There you go, man. Awesome.
So, yeah, 9 years.
Are you folks gearing up for your festival shows that are coming later in the fall, or is that going to be wait?
Well, yeah. I mean, what can I say? Yeah. There's. I think it's just like we've been sort of holding off on saying a whole lot because it's just a lot of bands don't want to have to announce things and pull back because nobody's real sure what's going to happen. As far as I understand, the shows that got canceled in 2020, most of those shows keep getting pushed forward in time. Mm-hmm. So we're going to actually play those shows, which whenever they kind of settle into one spot, and it looks like the promoters and venues aren't going to push back on us, we'll announce in bulk.
I gotcha. I was kind of going by what was on Trucker's website, and I saw like a festival date or two in late summer and early fall. It seemed as though those were on the docket, and like you're talking about, they if anything happens,
I think like by late August or September, everybody's kind of on the same page that we can do things. It's just those earlier dates,
Yeah.
That you really want to kind of be cautious about before you tell people anything,
Okay, yeah. Understood that.
We don't want some sort of variant to come through that area or
Mm-hmm.
through the nation and mess it up for everybody, So like this whole past year, you look at the calendar and they're there and they're moving forward, but you can't really dwell on them,
Yeah, I understand that. So what does, with the truckers maybe specifically, what does gearing up for a tour look like? Does that involve a lot of work on the front end?
No, I mean, it's just I've only ever had one rehearsal in 9 years with them.
That's fantastic, and you guys are so great.
We took one summer off, like the whole summer, and about halfway through, we were just like kind of missing everything and each other. So we met over in Athens and kind of practiced a little bit. I don't know if I've ever been drunker. I mean, because it was just like the crew brought in a bar, basically. And we kind of hit a few numbers, and then it just kind of turned into storytelling and drinking and standing around,
Man, if somebody would have been there to press record, that would have been a special moment, I bet.
Right, but I think we'll just sort of. I think we're planning on doing a little get together, knock the rust off of it, sort of rehearsal this time.
Cool.
And I don't expect it to be a ton of prep.
That's good.
I think I don't think it's good for the mindset.
I think it can be detrimental. I'm with you. That can hurt a seasoned band for sure. And you guys are fine. You guys are great. You guys keep your chops up without each other, I think, around.
How many times when we were younger have we thought about a show or a group of shows coming up and really practiced up for it, and then it just never seems to live up, really, does it?
No, it doesn't. In some cases, as you know, it falls apart on stage, and the fun was had 2 nights before in the shed.
I remember if Model Citizen ever had a great practice after it was over, I would be like, let's cancel the show.
Yeah. Yes.
Show's going to suck.
I can remember those days, man. You'd be playing so hot and so well and getting each other tickled with your licks and stuff and just smiling, and then you'd know, oh man, tomorrow night or Friday night's not going to go as good. Yeah. I remember those.
You always hope that practice is horrible,
Yeah. That's true. Yep. That's where you work out the bullshit. Yeah.
Right.
Well, speaking of shows, you've done a couple. You've been on the road just a little bit already with Jimbo, Jimbo Mathis, and you've been, like I said, you've been keeping up your chops because you stay so busy with Dialback Sound. Is there anything you can? I want to get into the Williamson Brothers in just a second, but even besides those guys, because I've got some specific questions devoted to those guys, whom we both love. But anything you can talk about or reveal that's happening at Dialback in the last few months?
Yeah, a lot. It's easier for me to kind of think about the projects we're all working on jointly, because Bronson too, my partner, and the engineer Schaefer Yana, they're constantly busy over there. I mean, they're so busy I can barely even keep up with everything they're doing, But things that we work on together, there's a sort of a psychedelic era blues guitarist from New Orleans, Ernie Vincent, that we worked with recently, that we're doing a record for Cornelius Chapel Records and the Music Maker Project. And it's sort of an ambitious thing, It's a big sort of uptown bluesy, funky record it's got, strings and backing vocal, horns. Taylor Hollingsworth came over and played guitar on it. Jimbo Mathis is band leader for it. So it's sort of a big, sort of street epic, big record, like Curtis Mayfield, Johnny Guitar Watson, sort of Bill Withers type thing. So it's been a fun challenge. And we've got some records coming out. We've had a reissue on Teardrop Cities later than you think.
Yes, it's a good record too.
We reissued Krista Shaw's Prone to Wander, which came out about a year ago, and it's just an amazing record. She sort of has like a Jillian Welch, Katie Lang, sort of rich, voice like that. It's sort of one in a million, so people should check that out. And we got records, Hans Condor record coming out.
Oh yeah.
Trying to think what else, as well as the Williamson Brothers thing, so
That's right.
lots of things happening over there at Dialback.
I know if anybody's interested, both Bronson and your account at Dialback give a little sneak previews often. I watched some of those with Ernie, and I saw that Taylor was doing some guitar work there, so that was really cool to see. If anybody wants to check that out, you can see it on Instagram. They're really cool to give you snippets of what's happening. I like that. So I do want to get into Williamson Brothers record, because the day that our show release, if you're watching us day of, it's June 18th, and Williamson Brothers record is out
Today.
And I'm so excited. I pre-ordered my vinyl, which will be a couple months later. We'll get that in, but I'm totally stoked for it. And I've listened to about probably 3/4 of the album, and I love it. Good stuff. Well, and you played on it, and probably had a little bit of a guiding hand here and there. But those guys, tell me what it's like to be in the studio with Blake and Adam, and does that compare to like being on the road? Is it the same? Because they're a lot of fun and rowdy and really hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, two of the funniest people I've ever met.
Easily.
So
Easily.
it's just it's nonstop, and like Schaefer Yana that tracked the record had never met him before,
Uh-oh.
And I was just like, these are going to be like the hilarious uncle that you never had, like coming, two of them coming over, and
Yeah.
you're just going to love these guys, and as soon as they walked out the door the first time, she was like, oh yeah, you were totally just right on track with that, just in stitches the entire time.
Yeah.
And, just hell-raising musicians, too, Right before that, we'd hired Blake to come over and play drums on a record by Jeremy Tooman. And Jeremy Tooman, I don't know if you remember him, but he would be before your time in Tuscaloosa. Just kind of good old-time, straightforward rock and roll music. So we had like a little pregame with Blake coming in, which was nice because... Actually, no, I'm wrong. Blake did play drums on the Williamson Brothers stuff, but I just hadn't heard him play drums in so long,
Mm-hmm.
But it was nice to get a double dose of that. But yeah, as you can imagine, it was a circus, I'm obviously sober now. Some things just never change. It felt like an outrageous party, even though that I was sober as a judge,
Yeah, they bring that feeling to you.
Right.
You don't really have to consume anything because they're sharp-witted.
They're intoxicating.
They are. There you go. That's it. That's the adjective we needed. So yeah, I'm excited to put the needle on that record. And for anyone who's maybe unfamiliar with them, I guess that's possible. These guys, they back Lee Baines III. And I'm so happy that they've put their album out, because they've paid their dues tenfold on just playing music, being a live band. They recorded some of those old songs, right? Some of I'm forgetting the name of it, but Summer.
Yeah.
What's the
Take Back the Summer?
Take Back the Summer's the one
those are a couple of things that I remember, because we all used to be a three-piece together towards the end of my time in Birmingham, we played together as a three-piece in the Black Willis group that they had.
Right.
So there was a couple of things, but, it's mostly new material, and they're already ready to come back and record, some more stuff. They've got, it kind of opened a well of creativity, coming into making the record. They told me they've already got 4 or 5 more things to cut.
Really?
So,
that's very exciting. When Blake was on the show, he did mention that Adam kind of pushed him, said, we're going to record these that Blake's written, because Blake's usually known for just being behind the kit.
Right.
So. And so did you play bass on all the tracks?
I mean, kind of half of them.
Yeah.
Because Adam and Blake just had things that they had tied already, so they came in and cut those as bass and drums live.
Gotcha.
and then stacked guitars and vocals on top of that. But stuff that I used to play on and stuff that they weren't, exactly 100% worked out on. I just sat down and played bass, and we got it all live in the can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's some of your bread and butter, man. Just to sit down, knock out a great bass line. I'm glad to hear you're on it as well, and they'll be playing live. Check them out. But let's get into the 4 questions with you. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So, speaking of music and good friends, like Blake and Adam and Lee and these guys, what makes for a good friendship in the music world once maybe you get to that next level where the truckers have reached?
Yeah, I think it's other folks that you may have known before, but other folks that are extremely busy, extremely driven, and extremely passionate. You can catch up with those folks whenever you can, and it's going to be fine. There's so much focus and so much kind of going on in their lives that whenever you can make time, that's the icing. I think that makes for the best friendships, these days.
Do you get a chance to talk to Sweet Dog much?
I do, yeah. And, he's had
Cool.
a lot of news lately that I've been catching up on, with his driving business and his little injury that he's had lately. Have you heard about all this?
I think I've heard of the injury, but I didn't know with the driving. Has he started his own driving business? Has that happened?
He's driving a big rig now.
Right. That
Yeah.
I knew. I guess it's
Yeah.
been, I haven't talked to him since the pandemic for sure, if not longer than that. So
Yeah.
shout out to him if he watches. So
Absolutely. Shout out to Sweet
Miss
Dog.
that guy.
But I'm looking forward to seeing him soon,
Cool, man. Yeah.
We
Yeah.
don't hop on the phone and talk at length, but we send each other little texts here now and then.
That's great to know.
But I've been checking in on him lately to see how his business is going and see how his foot's healing up.
Yeah. Yeah, it caused him some problem with drums, I think, for a second. Yeah.
Right.
All right, our next question is what convinces you or doesn't convince you that there's a higher power?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think what keeps me convinced is out of child fear and trauma, sort of. Maybe a fear of not believing in a way, or or a discomfort with not believing.
Yes, boy, do I know.
I went to a evangelical tongue-speaking, prophetic, pew jumping church, that believed that, or at least had me to believe that there's a spiritual war going on in my immediate presence at all moments. That everything is going to be over in a moment's notice.
Yes.
At any moment, everything could be over. So I'm sitting there, those formative years, starting to become more and more aware of what it is that they're trying to tell me. 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, thinking that my life may never really take off because I'll be swooped out of here at any moment.
Right.
So that's sort of the mindset that I lived in for a long time.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that a lot. Did it cause you any resentment, or does it presently?
I mean, it made me realize that's not really the way that I want to raise, my own kids.
Yes. Yes, sir. I agree with that too.
There's sort of she's young and innocent, and there's time for her to look into that and figure out what she thinks about all that. So does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And I know exactly where you're coming from. I just didn't want to interject myself because I'm much more interested in hearing from you. But no, I agree. For those that don't know, I too have a daughter. You have a daughter, and I grew up very similar. And I just don't want to do that. I don't want to do that to her. I want to, much like you said, if she gets old enough and has a question or two, I'm here. But
I think forever, just the thought of eternity for me as a child.
Yeah.
I just don't think I was ready to be confronted with all that,
I mean, who is?
It's hard enough to think about now, you know.
It sure is. It's mind-boggling.
There's something that if they haven't already, there's something there that they need to rethink because, I mean, what was going on in my mind, you know? Why should I try hard in school, you know?
Exactly.
Why should I try hard to do right? This is all going to be over here in a moment, you know? I remember a book when I was a kid they passed out called 88 Reasons That Jesus is going to Return to Earth in 1988. And the pastor pulling that up in the pulpit and just telling us any moment, you know? I was 12 years old. You know?
I think sometimes that stuff can do damage if you're not the right kind of person for it.
So, I mean, you know, is any of this God's fault or Jesus' fault?
Right.
You know? No.
Right.
But that's been my experience.
Yeah.
And I have a hard time processing all of that.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
That's good stuff. Good answers. We'll shift gears. This is a little lighter, maybe. So you've been lucky and you've been fortunate, speaking of experience, that you've traveled near and far. You've done some overseas work with several of your bands. And in comparison to other countries, what still makes the United States a pretty good place to live despite its glaring flaws?
You know, we have space.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
You know, we have plenty of ice. You know, and it's like, even though I can see the erosion of it over the years, that we live more in a me first culture than I did when I grew up, you know? I mean, it's like when I hit my 20s, all of a sudden people started to be more aggressively in your face a little bit. But I tell you what, you try to fly over in the continent, over in Europe, and deboard a plane, and you'll see what I'm talking about. People will crawl all over you to get an inch ahead. I'm talking about like it is. People will sit there at top volume, play music right in your face. It's just like, you know, the respect for each other's space and you know, person.
Yeah.
Is not what it is here, you know.
Huh. I wouldn't have guessed
it's
that.
Just like no matter where I am in the world, how nice it is. Like, you know, after about 10 days, don't you just want to come home?
Well, I do. I haven't been lucky enough to travel abroad, but I'm a homebody anyway, so home's always good for me.
You know, I love it and everything, but I'm always ready for that. You know, change of scenery. Let's just go home. This has been great, you know?
Yeah. Well, you're a veteran of the original Alabama Take podcast, so you know what our fourth and final question is. We use across many of our shows, so here it is. What's done up real good for you lately?
You know, what's done it real good? I've been watching, well, you know, it's like watching all this hacking and stuff going down this week with the pipeline and all that.
Yeah.
I happen to be watching The Americans.
Yes.
For the first time.
Yeah.
And, you know, I vividly remember the Cold War era, you know.
Yep.
I was young, but I remember, like, sitting there watching Reagan speak about missiles being pointed at Russia and Russia's missiles being pointed at us. So with all this sort of Russian, you know, stuff in the news, Russian interference in elections and Russian hackers, you know, stopping our pipelines and gas creeping up, you know. That's a damn interesting show.
Yes, it is.
You know?
Yeah.
And I do remember, you know, it seemed like it was just more of sort of a rumor. You know, they have KGB people just blending in over here that you wouldn't even recognize, you know.
I know.
You know, of course, that, you know, that same thing sort of evolves over time, that there's space aliens over here that you never would know. And there's, you know, reptile people over here that you never would know. But, like, you know, I think they actually did catch some real KGB folks, like, in the 80s. I think so. Disguised as American citizens, basically.
Yeah, I think so. That makes for some good reading. You're right, I need to check that out. I love that show, by the way. What season are you on?
I just started season 3.
Okay.
And, it's, I'd put it off for a few years, but that show's done it real good,
Sure
is.
It's
got that woman from Felicity on it that used to be on the Mouseketeers when I was a kid.
Kerry Russell.
So, yeah.
I'm fond of the actor too, and I'm his Matthew Reese, I think his name is. I'm really fond of him. He's good, does good acting. That's a good one, man. That's an excellent show. You kind of made me miss watching it for the first time. That first go around of watching that show was real special.
A few people tried to get me to watch it over the years, but the pandemic's been a perfect time,
Good time for catching up on television for sure. Well, Matt, it's great to see you. It's great to catch up with you. Yeah,
absolutely, always, man.
Part of the reason I did the show was really to catch up with some people. It kind of worked out. So much love to you, your family, to your bands, your studio. Studio's going great. I encourage everybody to follow Dial Back Sound on Instagram, and Bronson too on Instagram. They both do excellent work over there. So go record your album
and Schaefer Yana.
And Schaefer Yana, she's new. I need to meet her, but that is fantastic. Follow those folks, and Matt will be on the road coming at you soon. The Williamson Brothers record's out today. Matt, it's my pleasure, man. I will see you next time. Okay.
See you later.
Will went walking and was blown away. Found his finger by my mama's grave.